Hey guys, I'm going to try and be short and sweet and get to the point with this and not ramble, because there is just so much ramble ability in this subject. The week got off to a shaky start. I had a sinus infection from hell, but I've been back in the last 2 days. My voice returned, and I was greeted by a letter when I got back. And waited till the end of the day last night, opened this letter, and I was just like, I read it and I read it again. And it makes January 18th, 2024 a red letter day for me, for anybody else out there who's going to understand what I'm about to say. And I want to make it crystal clear why this is so important. So this letter arrives from a very, very well-respected doctor and surgeon here in Ireland. And it was a referral. And it was a referral letter for somebody who this individual had decided that within her scope, within the realm of the tools available to her in allopathic medical practice, that she couldn't help this individual. And she sent this referral to me not as a chiropractor, but as a metaphysician. And she said, I don't have to presume that you're going to go ahead and check this individual, doing your chiropractic thing and checking to see if everything is functioning the way it's supposed to be. And I leave in your good hands what I consider to be a crisis of the spirit. And, and then it was signed Dr. So-and-so. And I stepped back and, people are like, oh my God, this is such a big day. This is so huge. Oh wow. And let me tell you why it's oh wow. It is not oh wow because of being acknowledged by someone who's in the medical practice, and anybody who has been in the healing arts that other people, not we, deem as alternative, meaning it's alternative to allopathic medicine or this medical model. There are some people within that who chase, and they have, they seek acknowledgement, they seek acceptance. And what was so amazing about this is that currently I am listening to a book by this Russian-American author that was required reading before I entered chiropractic school, and the book is called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And it was very controversial in its time. An old black and white movie was made about it. And what was incredible is it challenged the idea of conformity. It challenged the idea of being forced into a life of altruism for the sake of altruism as opposed for the sake of the art. And, you're a young 20-something, and you're reading this and you're like, yeah, you're already all fired up anyway because, you're going to do something different. You're going to save the world. You're shaking things up and all this. And so now at 54, I'm revisiting The Fountainhead. And I have so many shake my head moments of Dr. Tom Gilardi, who was the founder of my chiropractic college, is the one who, it was required reading for school. And we were entering into a profession where the push to try and be accepted, the push to try and be acknowledged, the push to try and over-explain what we do, the push to define ourselves by what we aren't. The temptation was huge, because you weren't doing mainstream, you weren't doing the accepted thing, you weren't doing where all the marketing, the money, and the media were pushing into prescription medication and surgery. Now, is there a place for that? Yeah, absolutely. I have availed of both prescriptions, medications, and surgery when they were necessary to save my life. That's because they were emergency. But what's happened over time is, that's allopathic medicine has been hijacked by the pharmaceutical companies to the point where it has become a dependency. We know this, maybe you don't know this. But what was so interesting, if you guys remember this movie from, I don't know, was it the 80s, 90s maybe, Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, and there was this great line in it, where the voice is whispering, if you build it, they will come. And so yesterday I stood with this letter in my hand, and it was just like this breath-catching moment, because, you know, July coming will be 25 years in practice here in Ireland. And, you know, I wasn't always the popular kid on the block. I was the kooky kid on the block for sure. And you know, I've had my share of just coming to work with a big smile on my face and being told on a daily basis that, oh, my doctor thinks you're a kook, and, you know, so does half the town, and we don't understand, you know. And then along came the pandemic, and suddenly the kook was the only one who was open, and nobody came and said anything, and nobody touched her. And all of a sudden, this idea of, you know, isn't it a good idea to keep your body in good nick, to keep your body functioning at 100% to fight off what ails you? Because, I mean, like, how many shots can one get in a year? And so things kind of started to sit differently with people, and it was really interesting. And I'm listening to the Fountainhead, and I'm, you know, this architect who refuses to compromise who and what he is. He's even thrown out of college in his final year because they want him to design things to suit the needs of the population, to suit the whims and the wants of the people, as opposed to building the building for the sake of the building, for the perfect lines, the perfect space, where nothing was wasted. And suddenly you sit here and you're just like, oh gosh, I remember Dr. Gilardi standing in front of us and talking about this. And the point behind that being that, you know, you don't need to alter the body. The body is perfect as is. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable to accept that every body comes in with the exact body that is necessary for the journey that they are about to take on. And so, you know, we go in and we want to alter things. We want to throw chemicals in. We want to put pharmaceuticals in. We want to do this and that and alter, when the body doesn't actually need the help. It's not asking for help. It's just asking for no interference. And so, you know, I'm listening to the Fountainhead, and you're this defiant young Howard Rourke who refuses to conform, who refuses to build a building where every single space, every single angle, every corner isn't doing something to support the cause or the life of the building. And, you know, I'm looking at the design of the human body, and, you know, most people don't like certain aspects of their design, but the body in and of itself, how there isn't a single space, a single cell, a single chemical reaction within the brain, a single neuron firing, that there's absolutely nothing, no organ, nothing that does not have a specific function. And how bold we've become that we believe that just because we don't necessarily understand how that works, that we think it's okay to take pieces out and pull them apart or medicate them or do whatever. But, you know, we're like toddlers and we're learning as we go along. But then there are those of us who chose to approach the body from a space of, that body is perfect, and I'm here to assist that perfect body in accomplishing whatever it wants to accomplish, just by removing the interference. Because life creates interference through stress, and that's physical stress, emotional stress, and you know, that the body in and of itself is perfectly perfect. So 1991 comes along, and I'm in a car accident, and I break my neck, and I have this out-of-body experience that is quite extensive, and I've written many books about it, and I've spoken all over the world about it, and it became part of me, part of my being. And I do practice metaphysics, but I practice metaphysics on a different day than I practice chiropractic, because when I practice chiropractic, it is pure, unadulterated chiropractic. Now, I have a lot of wisdom about a lot of different things, but when I am practicing chiropractic, I am working on that sole premise that my job is to go in and remove interference from that nervous system. Now, I can't help what that accident gave to me. The fact that I can see things and do things that maybe the average person can't do. And so I wanted to utilize that. And so I am a chiropractor and a metaphysician. I don't combine the two. They're two separate things when I'm doing them, because it has to be that way. Even though the mind, the body, and the spirit are intrinsically entwined, each of them is an individual and unique practice. And so when I'm doing chiropractic, I'm doing chiropractic. When I'm practicing metaphysical healing, I'm practicing metaphysical healing. And it was quite incredible to receive a letter from somebody who was acknowledging both my skill as a chiropractor and both my skill and my skill as a metaphysician. But here's the kicker. I sat in this moment, deeply ensconced. I'm 3/4 of the way through listening to the Fountainhead again and talking about my role, not as being some kind of steward or being altruistic for the sake of being altruistic, or that it's my job to serve humanity, but that it's my job to show up and practice my art so purely that the people who need me will come. They'll point fingers, they'll laugh, they'll call me a quack, they'll call me a witch, they'll call me whatever they want to, and that still I don't change. Still I rise, as Maya Angelou once so gracefully said. And I held this letter in my hands and I went, oh my gosh, the feeling that came through me was not one of, oh yay, they're finally acknowledging me. It was quite the opposite. I was so happy, and I felt such an achievement for having stayed the course, for never having taken the temptation, for never joining an association for an association's sake, who was going to tell somebody, oh, you can go to this doctor because this insurance covers that. That I never ever swayed. And how tempting it is, how much easier it would have been, how much more financially fruitful it would have been. But I stayed the course, and I always stayed me. And I received this letter, and I see this person who is now accepting, and her paradigm shifted. By staying true to who I am and what I do and what I have to offer, I was rejoicing last night that the individual whom she was speaking about, and she was referring to me, was actually going to get the chance to break out of the idea that the only approach to her health and well-being was that medical allopathic model. And that the reason that this was going to happen was because her doctor had finally gotten it. So it has nothing to do with me needing an acknowledgement. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I've never needed anyone's acknowledgement. Ask anyone who's seen me walking down the road in a wizard costume or dressed like Willy Wonka in the middle of the workday. That's not why I do what I do. I do this because of the joy that it brings me. One of the side effects that it does is it helps all the people that come in to see me. But I was so proud, and I stayed true to the premise of why I got into chiropractic and why I practice metaphysics, why I share that gift as well. And it's not to be seen, it's not to be heard, it's not to be acknowledged, it's not to be so altruistic that I'm giving back because my life depends on serving others. Actually, that's what burns people out and pisses people off. That's what happens to us. We've been duped into believing that our soul identity is on how much we give and serve to others, and that is a one-way ticket to a short lifespan and burning out and hating what you do. And so it was such an amazing day, January 18th, 2024, where I held that letter in my hands at the moment where I haven't read that book in years. And I decided to be reading it. It was like it came to life for me last night. I'm reading this letter, and I was just like, I was so overwhelmed by the fact that my reaction wasn't such, there wasn't anything. There was no kind of, oh yay, one person, they see me. Like I see lots of doctors in here. Some of them come in on the slide. It's nothing to do with being acknowledged. That's their loss, not mine. Because my business still goes. It still marches forward. Whether people get it or don't get it, it's still there because there are people who get it. And I built it, and they came, and they continue to come. But what that letter said to me was, by not bending, by staying true to who I am and what I am here to do, by staying true to the philosophy, the science, and the art of who I am as an individual, of who I am as a chiropractor, of who I am as a metaphysician, that somebody out there who is so deeply ensconced in a system that so wants to teach people that they need to conform, they need to be part of the group, they need to do things that are against their better judgment because the group is doing it, that this person stepped back and took a breath and was willing to lay that aside and send somebody for something outside of what they had to offer. That's a win. That's a huge win. And it was just mind-blowing to actually, it was visceral, my response to reading that letter and going, oh my gosh, that's the big payoff. And I wanted to share that with you this evening because it was just phenomenal. Stick to what you know, guys. And if what you know doesn't make sense, find another way. Peace out.